Hi, beautiful. Today we're reading in A Course in Miracles, the text, Chapter 5, Healing and Wholeness. And we are in Section 5, the ego's use of guilt. And we'll start in paragraph 3. The ego is the part of the mind that believes in division. How could part of God detach itself without believing it is attacking him? We spoke before of the authority problem as based on the concept of usurping God's power. The ego believes that this is what you did because it believes that it is you. I'm going to read that again because that's really fascinating. The ego believes that this is what you did because it believes that it is you. Wow. If you identify with the ego, you must perceive yourself as guilty. Whenever you respond to your ego, you will experience guilt and you will fear punishment. Wow. So any sense of guilt or fear of punishment, we can be certain in that moment, at least, that we are being ego identified. And of course, Miracles says you really, when it comes to your identity, you have two choices. It's you can be hostage to ego, and the ego believes that it is you. It's not, but it believes it is. Or you can be host to God, your true authentic self. The ego is quite literally a fearful thought. However ridiculous the idea of attacking God may be to the sane mind, never forget that the ego is not sane. It represents a delusional system and speaks for it. I'm going to read that again because this is so profound, so important. The ego represents a delusional system and speaks for it. Of course, when we're ego identified, this delusional system, we call it common sense. Listening to the ego's voice means that you believe it is possible to attack God and that a part of him has been torn away by you. Fear of retaliation from without follows because the severity of the guilt is so acute that it must be projected. Whatever you accept into your mind has reality for you. I'll pause here and say, there really isn't any separation between your personal perception and your personal reality. It's real to you. And even if someone is in a nightmare, if they think they're being chased by wolves, it's real to them. And you cannot convince them otherwise if they really believe it. And if you shake them, wake up, it's just a nightmare. Until they awake, they're not going to believe you. They're just going to think some other horrible thing is happening. Oh, because you're shaking them and they're still asleep. Oh, now I'm being chased by wolves and there's an earthquake on top of this. Whatever you accept into your mind has reality for you. It is your acceptance of it that makes it real. If you enthrone the ego in your mind, you're allowing it to enter makes it your reality. Wow, I'm going to pause here and say, this is why if someone is ego identified, if they are hostage to ego, you cannot convince them to see any reality but the small, tiny, fearful, fear-driven reality that they're lost in. If you enthrone the ego in your mind, you're allowing it to enter makes it your reality. This is because the mind is capable of creating reality or making illusions. I said before that you must learn to think with God. To think with him is to think like him. This engenders joy, not guilt, because it is natural. Guilt is a sure sign that your thinking is unnatural. Unnatural thinking will always be attended with guilt, because it is the belief in sin. The ego does not perceive sin as a lack of love, but as a positive act of assault. This is necessary to the ego's survival because as soon as you regard sin as a lack, you will automatically attempt to remedy the situation and you will succeed. The ego regards this as doom, but you must learn to regard it as freedom. I'm going to read these last couple sentences. This is necessary to the ego's survival because as soon as you regard sin as a lack, you will automatically attempt to remedy the situation. And you will succeed. The ego regards us as doom, but you must learn to regard it as freedom. Wow. The guiltless mind cannot suffer. Being sane, the mind heals the body because it has been healed. The sane mind cannot conceive of illness because it cannot conceive of attacking anyone or anything. I said before that illness is a form of magic. It might be better to say that it is a form of magical solution. The ego believes that by punishing itself, it will mitigate the punishment of God. Yet even in this it is arrogant. It attributes to God a punishing intent and then takes this intent as its own prerogative. It tries to usurp all the functions of God as it perceives them because it recognizes that only total allegiance can be trusted. The ego cannot oppose the laws of God any more than you can, but it can interpret them according to what it wants, just as you can. That is why the question, what do you want? What do you want? Must be answered. You are answering it every minute and every second, and each moment of decision is a judgment that is anything but ineffectual. Its effects will follow automatically until the decision is changed. Wow, okay, we'll just stop here. I want to keep reading because there's so much profundity in the text. I'm like, wow. But we'll pause, we'll stop here for today and just ponder a little bit what this is saying and its practical application. It's saying here that the question we have to ask ourselves is, what do we want? Because if we want justice and we want others to pay for their sins and we're holding a grievance and we want to make the other party guilty, then that's the nightmare we'll live in. And in the Course, it says you can be right or happy, but you can't be both. Because the ego seeks to be right and the soul seeks to be happy. Because the soul is wise and knows that there is no objective reality, because every single person has their own nurture and nature and has a completely different perspective. And their perspective is their personal reality. And there's nothing to be done about that. Nor would you want anyone to come in and take away your perspective and say, oh, well, you're this nationality and you speak this language and that's not right. You should be this culture and you should speak this language. Who are we to know what we should be or what we shouldn't be? Can we celebrate the diversity and the unity in that diversity? Because the ego wants to separate and make and not celebrate uniqueness, which I believe is a beautiful, wonderful thing. Not celebrate uniqueness, but create difference in the form of separation of them versus us, good versus bad, and everything against each other. And that's not how ecosystems work. If you go out into nature and you go to a pond, everything is working in some type of beautiful harmony and synergy. And, it may be an imperfect example. But what comes to mind is that you wouldn't go into a beautiful field of wildflowers and go, oh, I wish the yellow flowers weren't there. It would just look better if there was only red flowers. No, you just appreciate the beauty for what it is. And can we do that with each other? And I'm sorry, my parakeets are talking. If you're listening at home, you're probably going, wait, where are the birds? Birds are in the house. So that's our work. That's our work. To make the decision. What do you want? And do we choose to be host to God or hostage to ego? Because the Holy Spirit can give us an alternative to the broken and miserable thought system of ego, if we're willing. If we are willing. I think the most powerful thing I read is that the ego believes that this is what you did because it believes that it is you. And then it talks about how the ego wants to usurp God. Well, I'm not interested in that anymore. I'm happy to just let go and trust the flow and appreciate what is. Thanks for being here. I love you. I'll see you soon. Mwah.